What happens to a person's soul after death? And while in the past only various esoteric or spiritual traditions could answer this question, today scientists are also able to shed light on this matter. Modern research in the fields of neurophysiology, quantum physics, and transpersonal psychology has unexpectedly begun to confirm what has been said for centuries in occult literature. And the most astonishing thing is that both mystics and scientists agree on one point. The first 3 days after death are of the greatest importance for the human soul, because it is during this period that an incredible transformation takes place and the soul comes to understand the shocking mysteries of existence. In the traditions of many peoples of the world, the first 3 days after death are considered sacred. For example, according to Christian teaching, the soul, after leaving the body, wanders the earth until the third day before appearing before the higher powers. In Buddhism and Hinduism, this time is dedicated to the soul's realization of its new state. The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes in detail the 49-day posthumous journey of the soul, but special attention is given precisely to the first 3 days as the key period of choice. In Kabbalah, these 3 days are called the time of revelation. This is the period when the soul fully realizes that it has crossed the boundary between worlds. Modern regression therapists, such as Michael Newton and Raymond Moody, also emphasized in their research that the first 72 hours after death are the most vivid for the soul. At this time, it is as close as possible to earthly reality. Helena Blavatsky, the founder of the Theosophical Society, wrote that after death a person does not die immediately. Their soul remains within the astral shell, wavering between worlds. During this period, according to Blavatsky, the disentanglement between body, soul, and spirit takes place. She claimed that in the first 3 days the soul seems to be in a state of waiting, not knowing where to go next, upward to the realms of light or downward into the domain of karmic debts. The great clairvoyant of the 20th century, Edgar Cayce, repeatedly described the state of the soul in the first hours after death. In one of his trance sessions, he said, "Death is not an end, but a release." When the earthly journey is over, the soul lingers for a while near the body, trying to understand what has happened, and only then does it depart into the other world. Edgar Cayce also emphasized that many souls, within the first 3 days, often try to return and attempt to communicate with the living through dreams, signs, sensations, and so on. They want to tell the living that they are still alive, but in another form of existence. The idea that consciousness continues to exist after death had long been considered unscientific. However, in recent decades, this has begun to change. British scientist Sam Parnia, who studied hundreds of cases of clinical death, came to a shocking conclusion. Consciousness does not disappear immediately after the heart stops. He said, people who have experienced clinical death often describe strikingly similar experiences, such as perceiving an unearthly light, leaving the body, observing what is happening in the hospital room, and a sense of oneness with the whole universe. And all this is very often confirmed by various experiments, the positive results of which only a complete fool could ignore. An even more astonishing discovery was made by a group of American scientists who studied human brain activity in the final minutes of life. They recorded bursts of brain activity resembling those that occur during lucid dreaming or meditation. This activity was observed for several hours even after the official death of the brain. In other words, after death, human consciousness continues to exist. And these experiments show that the connection between soul and body does not vanish instantly, but gradually. But what exactly does the soul experience in the first 3 days? The process it undergoes can be divided into 3 stages. The first stage is confusion and awakening. In the first hours after death, the soul remains near the physical body. Often it does not realize that it has died. Many people who experienced clinical death describe this as a waking dream. Blavatsky called this state astral numbness. The second stage is the recollection of the path traveled. The soul begins to recall its earthly life. As Edgar Cayce described, at this time a person seems to rewind all the key moments of their existence in our transient world. Many souls try to say farewell to their loved ones, leaving them signs, such as stopped clocks, the scent of perfume, the sudden appearance of birds, or unusual sounds. Many people have indeed noted that at the moment of their loved one's death, they felt as if the departed came to bid farewell, even if they were physically far away. This proves that for the soul, earthly space is no barrier. The third stage is the decision of transition. By the end of the third day, the soul makes a choice to remain under the pull of earthly life or to move forward into the other world. At this moment, spiritual guides, mentioned by Edgar Cayce and many others who experience near-death states, come into play. This time is a kind of crossroads where the soul either rushes toward the light or lingers in the so-called transitional zone. Many researchers, both mystics and scientists, point out that the first 3 days after physical death are the moment when a person, for the first time in a long while, truly stands face to face with truth. But what does this transition look like from within, through the eyes of the soul itself? What does it feel, see, and realize? Why do some people depart easily, while others are frightened, resist, and sometimes even remain, returning to life once again? Edgar Cayce emphasized that death for the soul is a great awakening. But not everyone meets it with joy. The first hours after death are the most critical. Those who die suddenly often do not realize they are dead. They feel alive, and therefore hear their relatives weeping, see their own body, and sense the emotions of those around them. Yet no one responds to them. The first shock sets in, the feeling of being cut off from the world. Helena Blavatsky said that at this stage, the soul dwells in the dense layers of the astral world, where thoughts become flesh and fears turn into traps. There, every thought materializes instantly. There is no deception, no possibility of hiding behind a mask. The soul sees itself as it truly is. If a person lived with fear, hatred, and oppression of others, all of this returns to them in the form of images, voices, and terrifying visions that overwhelm them with dread. Yet this is not punishment, but the natural response of the astral plane to what the person truly was during life. Edgar Cayce also noted that at this stage, the soul may create illusions for itself. For example, false heavens or hells. This especially happens if it is not ready to face the truth about itself. Some souls remain trapped in these worlds for years. The great clairvoyant claimed that there is a phenomenon known as spiritual inertia. Its essence lies in the fact that if a person did not believe in life after death, or was too attached to the material world, their soul may simply not want to leave. Helena Blavatsky called this phantom resistance. The soul clings to the house it lived in, to loved ones, or to unfinished business. Such souls become what we call ghosts or wandering entities. During the first 3 days, they still have the chance to leave voluntarily, but afterward it becomes very difficult. Modern parapsychologists and dream researchers have recorded many cases where the deceased appeared to their relatives exactly 3 days later, as if they were given one final chance before departure. According to Edgar Cayce, during the first 3 days after death, the soul undergoes what he called moral unpacking. This state resembles a deep sleep in which you suddenly begin to feel guilt, regret, love, and forgiveness all at once. Many mystics have spoken of this period of the soul's stay in the other world with the words, "You do not meet God, you meet yourself as God sees you." In the first 3 days after death, the soul is as if weighed on the scales of true justice. This is not an external judgment, but an inner revelation. Some feel relief, light and freedom, while others, on the contrary, experience heaviness, fear, and a need for atonement. That is why, in the traditions of many peoples, on the third day after the end of earthly life, prayers are said for the repose of the soul. They help it release pain, repentance, and anxiety. Edgar Cayce was convinced that most souls are not alone at this moment. Nearby are spiritual beings he called guides or mentors. They help the soul make the right choice in its posthumous destiny. Helena Blavatsky, however, spoke of beings who preserve cosmic memory and help the soul through the stage of breaking its bond with the body. Sometimes souls also meet deceased loved ones, but only if their spiritual vibrations allow such contact. But why are exactly 3 days so important? Because they are determined by the cosmic rhythm to which both the soul and the human body are subject. In other words, the answer lies in the spiritual anatomy of man, which has been described in detail by many esoteric schools. A human being is not just a body. He consists of 7 levels, but at the moment of death, 3 of them are especially significant. These are the familiar physical body, the etheric body created by life energy, and the astral body formed by the energies of emotions and desires. After clinical death, the physical body dies immediately, but the etheric body, which nourishes the organs with vital force, remains active for about 72 hours. During this time, the soul still feels connected to the body, hears prayers, senses the presence of loved ones, and may even hesitate, deciding whether to move on to the other world or remain in the earthly sphere. This is the reason why, in ancient cultures, the body was not buried right away, because the soul was still nearby. In the first 24 hours after death, the soul is still connected to the body through the finest energetic threads. This state is similar to a dream in which a person realizes they are asleep but cannot wake up. The soul hears the weeping of relatives, feels touches, and may even attempt to rise, but the body remains motionless. At this moment, many experience a sense of panic, or, on the contrary, profound peace. On the second day after death, the soul finally breaks free from the body's pull, but it still carries the imprint of life, smells, images, habits, and fears. If a person died in anxiety, stress, or suddenly, this energy lingers in the etheric shell. It vibrates, and this is why, in the homes of the deceased, during the first 2 days one feels a dense atmosphere, because it is indeed real. On the third day after death, the soul enters the most subtle and important zone, the so-called astral mirror. Here, it remains alone with its emotions and deeds. In this space, everything that was suppressed during life manifests: resentment, guilt, forgiveness, regrets, love, and passion. The soul comes face to face with itself. If a person was filled with light, they will see pleasant images, but if they lived in anger and malice, their astral landscape will be filled with fears. This explains why some souls during the first 3 days feel grace and light, while others experience anxiety and chaos. In many near-death experiences and regression practices, there is a moment when the soul sees a light at the end of the tunnel or open gates. This light is the energetic response of the soul itself to its inner level of vibration. It appears when the soul is ready to let go of the past, does not cling to earthly attachments, and is unafraid of being seen in its true essence. During the first 3 days after death, the soul is influenced by 3 types of forces. First, the energy of relatives. If it is based on love and release, it helps the soul move toward the light. If it is based on fear, suffering, and despair, it can hold the soul back. Second, karmic ties, especially emotions such as hatred and anger. Third, guides and beings from higher realms. They do not intervene directly, but create a field in which the soul hears the call and moves toward it if it is ready. The first 3 days after death are not the end, but a moment of profound truth. Write in the comments, have you ever felt the presence of a departed soul? And also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new fascinating videos. Thank you very much for watching. Wishing you all long life and kindness.